Hey everybody, Jessie here from jessiebanks.com. I have another speed paint video for you all, and this time I'm using Craft and Kimmy Stamps Let's Celebrate. So these are my Winsor Newton Cotman watercolors, some white gouache, and this has Koi, Daniel Smith, and Winsor Newton Cotman paints in that other palette. The two types of paintbrushes I use for this are the Silver Black Velvet and the Princeton and Neptune brushes. Princeton art brushes. So that's basically what my setup looks like when I was about to start this, just because I was zooming in and out. So while I start wetting and working on the background here, I'm just going to let you know that this is a very, very fast video. I knocked down roughly 3.5 hours worth of footage into this 15-minute video. So I hope you guys can kind of catch in what you want. And if you have any questions or anything like that, definitely put them down below. If I need to do a slower video on bits and pieces, I can easily do that. That's no problem. So initially I just went around and I started wetting everything and dropping in a little bit of light blue for the background. I know that in the pictures you can't see it very, very well. It was very hard to catch the background just because the images themselves end up so bright and bold when I'm finished. But I start with just a light blue around all the outside of everything, and then I'll start dropping in colors. So these two images are some of the clear stamps that Kimmy's now using because they're no longer being produced in rubber. I love them. They stamp fantastic. I had absolutely no problem after I cleaned the clear stamps and gave them a light sand like I always do. And if you need a link to the review on the new clear stamps, I will definitely put that link in the description box below, as long as I remember. I will hopefully remember. But I had absolutely no problem with them. I love them. I have no complaints about them at all. The photopolymer stamps are fantastic. So we're just carrying on. I'm adding a little bit slightly darker blue areas to it. Slowly building up the color. It takes a lot of patience to do this with watercolor. I use lots of light layers, and I just keep repeating layer after layer after layer. Like, I know once I get to his suit, I think I put 8 or 9 layers on that, and some of it is cut out of the video. I didn't want to make you guys have an 1.5 hour long or 2 hour long video of me watercoloring a couple images, and I had no idea how I was going to talk that long, even though I talk a ton and I talk very fast. But I'm going around now and I'm just putting in some light pinky purpley colors, and I'm just letting them bleed out and being very random about it. There's not a lot of rhyme or reason to it. And there's purple and pink, and I add a little bit more of a peachy, pinky ready type color. And then some darker blues. I'm super happy with the way this one turned out, and this is you guys should see this right in and around New Year's Eve. It's the 20th of December when I'm recording this voiceover, so I haven't exactly finalized scheduling everything. Truth be told, I currently haven't even made the card with the image. The image is sitting in front of me. But by the time this goes live, the finished card will be on my blog with the video. So you can definitely pop over there to see what I did with the image when it was done. But I figured, popping the top on the wine bottle and the girl in her dress with her wine glass, and it's kind of perfect for a New Year's type-ish card. Great way to wind down 2015. I'm hoping to keep up my scheduling pace, and having at least a video a week is kind of my fingers crossed, my hope. At this time, there'll be one that goes live on Monday the 21st of December, and I have 4 more in queue after that. So I've been really working hard to get ahead a little bit. And you can definitely check out my blog for cards and things that I haven't filmed the coloring for. And I'm definitely considering starting to do more complete filmings. I'll film card making and all of that stuff again coming up in the new year. So that's exciting. Yay for getting my YouTube channel hopefully on track and actually being used regularly, because I've failed miserably at that in the past. This background took tons of time. I bet you it was probably an hour to do the background. Now we're going to start in on the skin. Here's where I zoom in a little closer for you now. And the colors are hard to see at the start. I'm just starting with very, very light. Everything gets built up very slowly when I watercolor. You can. I personally don't. Just the way I like to work. I don't go in very heavy with color right off the start. I just, lots of light layers, very light layers. And him and her, I use the same colors on both of them. Of course, she gets a little bit of blush, and they always look a little bit different. I'm doing it with a paintbrush, and I'm not a computer, so they definitely aren't. The colors aren't 100% the same. Here's my first coat. So when I started on his suit, the first thing I did was I went in with a layer of Payne's Gray. I have no black watercolor paint. I don't have any in either of my palettes. I make it. So this is where I start now. This is where I start coming in with the black that I mixed. And when I mixed my black, for this one I do believe I mixed like blue and Payne's Gray and brown and red to make my black. So you just kind of take, well, I take a bunch of the darker colors and mix them all together until it looks black enough for me. And that's how I make my black paint. And you'll see how dark I build this up. Like, it started very, very light. I think I show you most of the coats on the pants. On his jacket, I definitely know I cut a bunch of it out, but then we go in and I give her dark hair. So I just did a light coat of the same black color that I'm using for his clothes is what I used in her hair. And I just gave it a real light coat. And then his jacket, I did the same thing. I put that bottom layer of Payne's Gray in there. I wasn't sure how dark I was going to go at this point, and I didn't want to not have that in the jacket and then decide I didn't want to go as dark as I ended up going and have it show through. And yeah, sometimes it's easier just to follow, if you want the same color, to follow the same order you did things. Now I'm starting to paint in where I'm going to have my highlights. I'm blocking all of that out. There's lots of stop and go in this. You'll see a point where my lighting changes. I'm not sure if I already went through that or not, but there's a point where the lighting changes. I had to turn lights on and I didn't have daylight bulbs and it was just a disaster. But it took me all day to film this just because I like to let my watercolors dry naturally, especially in something like this, because as long as that paper's cool, it's actually still wet. And when it's still wet, the watercolors are actually still moving. So I let them dry. I never hit this image with a heat gun once, so it all dried naturally in the end. There was no heating, no blow dryers, no nothing like that. So, but I love this image. Don't you love this image? And I gave him brown hair. And I followed, like, because I'm using such a tiny brush, I did my hair the same way I did. Oh, there. I forgot to turn the camera on, and I gave her dress a light coat of pink. And then I remembered that the camera wasn't on, so I came back in, and now I'm just adding in my first darker spots. It's the same color that I did the dress in, it's just a more saturated version of it. So, and I'm just adding in where all the shadows will be very, very lightly to start. Figuring out where I want to lay anything. I follow a very similar process that I do when I color with Copics, when I do it with markers. See, there's where my lighting changed. I meant when I paint as when I do with markers. It's more layers with my watercolors than it is when I do it with my markers. My markers are definitely like my go-to reach when I'm in a hurry, when I want something done fast. I love them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like it's a cop-out and I just do them because I'm lazy. I love my markers. This is just way more time consuming. I could color this image in probably an hour with my markers, where it took me like 3.5 with my watercolors. But I like the challenge and it's super fun. I have another one coming up in the future that is actually a mix of my markers and my watercolor paints. So I'm starting to mix a lot more of my mediums together, which is super fun and exciting. Another coat on his clothing. I wonder if you guys can hear that. Snowmobiles outside. Here's where I come in and work on the hair, and I'll zoom in, I do believe, right away here. There you go. And I do it same way I do with my Copics. I do, like I said, lots of it is very, very similar. I just use the very, very tip of, this is a number 4, I do believe, in the silver black velvet brushes. And I do the same thing. I'm just pulling up with the very, very tip of the paintbrush and just laying in nice little strands of hair. So it's a very similar process, it's just a different medium. Lots of the theories and things cross over. So now I'm going in, this is a darker purple now, into her dress. Just building up the dimension and the depth of those folds and everything just to give it lots of life. Her dress turned out absolutely beautiful. I love it. I like this image altogether though, so. As I started laying in all of these colors and things, I wasn't sure how dark I wanted the skin. You can see how light it looks. I do go in and add a lot more color to, or add more color to it a little bit later on here, just because as I, got the jacket and the pants as black as I wanted them and the dress as purple as I wanted it to be and everything like that, I realized how washed out and pale their skin looked, and they looked like, people that don't see sun for 500 years kind of a deal. It was really, really bad. So I think I'm out of things to talk about. And I'm going to turn you all on some music. And if you have any questions, definitely leave them below. All of my links to social media and my Etsy and my Patreon store, or my Etsy store and my Patreon will be in the links below. Direct link to the image. And I hope you all have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.